Welcome back to SoulBack. This is the R&B podcast. Kyle here, and I have Ed with me. Ed, what is going on?
Look who's back, player. Guess who's Bizak? Your boy is back after a nice and much needed trip back to the home country, the homeland, the motherland of VA. Happy to be back on the podcast, and I see that Tom is running scared because he knew I would probably terrorize him now that I'm back on board.
Well, actually, you have to confirm whether this is true or not, but you made a pit stop in Atlanta last week, and rumor has it you were at a Migos concert.
I was at a pit stop, all right, and it was the Pits, and the Migos concert, I was going to say would be better than being stuck in traffic for 2 hours, but probably not. I think I was better holding my bladder, sitting in unmoving traffic for 90 minutes than listening to those dudes mumble through stir fry.
Jeez, that's what it's like in VA?
That's what it's like in ATL. VA is fine. Other than the mass shootings and terrible stuff there. Yeah, that's another time.
All right. And then another picture we found of you. You were double fisting Slurpees. Why do you have 2 Slurpees with you?
Well, listen, anybody who knows your boy knows that I am a Slurpee fanatic. But unfortunately, the last 2 states that I've lived in, first Kentucky and now Alabama, there are no 7-Elevens here. I don't know what the deal is. When I go to VA, there's literally one on every corner. If you drive down the street, you're passing 4. So while I'm home, best believe I'm re-upping on my Slurpees. So yeah, I was double fisting, triple fisting. I was tearing up some Slurpees.
Wow. But I know one thing that you weren't doing. You weren't eating chicken the way that Tom eats chicken. And what I mean by that, Ed, I sent you a thing on Instagram detailing how people eat their chicken wings. Now, if you haven't seen this clip, let me detail for you guys. So there's 3 ways you can eat it. Option A, which is actually the way that Tom eats it, surprisingly. He pretty much just takes a bite of the chicken wing, doesn't even attempt to clean the bone, and he just tosses it away. Option B,
what a
which surprisingly... Option B, which is I think where my girlfriend would fit in this, she'll eat most of it, but she'll leave the cartilage on the top and the bottom of the wing aside, and then she'll toss it away. And then there's option C, which is where I think both of us fit in. We just clean the bone from top to bottom, left to right. It's all gone. All you have left is the bone. Ed,
clean the bone, player. Look, I came up
on Tom.
First of all, my thoughts on Tom are the usual slander. Player, listen, if you get I don't know how much your wings cost from wherever you are listening to this podcast right now. Let's say you get like 6 wings. If you only bite the middle of the 6 wings, look how much chicken that's wasted. That's a whole meal that you're throwing away. You need to clean that bone, dog. And I have to get on my wife too, because she's kind of in that Tom category where she'll like bite the middle and leave the rest. What a waste. If you go to my grandparents' house right now, and if you go to my grandparents in Portsmouth, Virginia, right as we speak, hometown of Missy Elliott, by the way, if we go there, they serve you some wings, and you bite the middle of it and throw it away, they'll probably hit you in the head with a frying pan, because they do not play that.
Yeah, I didn't understand there were so many, or I didn't realize there were so many people that didn't eat the cartilage. That's like the good stuff. It tastes good.
It's good. And even if you don't, even if it's like your girl and you just kind of like do a little bit around it. And sometimes when I'm in a rush or if I'm not feeling it, maybe I'll do the same. But I am not going to leave 60% of the meat on the bone. Y'all just throwing money away. Must be nice to be so rich. I'm kind of getting my money's worth for my 6 wings.
So with that said, can we give Tom a Playa Please?
Oh, we give Tom Playa Please any and all the time. Twice on Sundays.
And there you have it. So, Ed, a lot has happened since you've been on the podcast. We had Jagged Edge one week, and then I had Brandy from Black. And we've also had a lot of new music discussion, but we're gonna scrap all of that aside because, Ed, I have one new song that you've been really excited about. I think you've been waiting for this for years now. There's been a lot of anticipation. Drizzy Drake and cousin Chris Brown, they've formed like Voltron to create the song No Guidance. And Ed, I know you were really excited when you heard about the news, but the song itself, yay or nay?
Player. Form, did you say form like Voltron? This is form like a GoBot. This is the cheesiest, lamest $19.99 dollar store Rite Aid stuff I have ever heard. This song, well, first of all, this song is exactly what you would expect. Jokes aside, is what you would expect in 2019. And it's honestly all that's wrong with quote-unquote R&B in 2019. First, you got Drake, who does his R&B singing. And don't get me wrong, I like some of Drake's R&B stuff. But when he's essentially just mumbling and then does that little whoop at the end of his verses, that's not R&B. That's talking in your sleep. So that's his verse. This very sorry, mumbly verse. Then your boy, my cousin Chris, who thankfully I didn't get to see while I was home, just jumps on the track screaming and yelling with auto-tune. So if this is singing, this is news to me because this is just Transformer yelling. So you got Drake who's sleepwalking through his verse. You got cousin Chris who's yelling through his, and this is an R&B song. Please help me find out how that is possible in 2019.
Well, Ed, I'm going to defend your cousin Chris on this one, as I normally do. First and foremost, I'm blaming Drake for this collaboration, because number one, this sounds like a Drake song, and then Chris Brown just added like a verse to it.
Oh, I agree there.
Number two, Chris Brown was not yelling in auto-tune on that song. That's what you call energy, Ed. That's what we need.
Oh my
some enthusiasm.
God.
This
Enthusiasm?
vibey, sleep talking music. No, Ed. Chris Brown did his part, and he did it well. And let me remind you here, Chris Brown, who is set to drop a 37-track album, which we'll talk about in a sec. His first single, Undecided, you liked that record, didn't you?
No, now first of all, let's clear up a few things. Because yelling into what cousin Chris was doing was essentially yelling into a ceiling fan. It's like when we had, back in the 80s, when we had those fans, before they had the central air popping in everybody's houses. You had those little floor fans, and you were yelling it, and it make you sound like, That's exactly what he's doing. He's yelling into a fan and calling it a song. So he can have a seat. Secondly, yes, Undecided. If you recall one of our earlier podcasts, I said that I really enjoyed the song for the nostalgia. That means when he swiped that beat from I Love Your Smile, listening to it made me want to listen to I Love Your Smile. The production is cool. But what he brought to the table was slim and none, because the difference between, now I may have brought this up on the podcast, the difference between what he did there and what Mariah did when she sampled the Lil' Kim beat Crush on You is that Mariah was able to take a sample but make it her own song. Cousin Chris basically rolled the entire vibe and the entire melody and the entire everything that already was done by Shanice. So it sounded too much like her song. It sounded like karaoke. Whereas Mariah just basically did her own thing over a more established beat. That's the difference between those two songs. I like Undecided better than his new song, but I'm not really a fan of either.
All right. Well, Undecided was a hit, and then his second single, Back to Love, which he scrapped 2 days after it came out. That's actually a good song. I don't know if you've heard that one, but that one's not bad.
I remember hearing it, but I can't remember a thing about it, so that doesn't bode well for this 400-song album that's dropping.
That can't be good. And then, of course, his current single was the one with Nicki Minaj, and I'm just going to delete that when the album comes out, so we're just going to pretend that doesn't exist. But
oh my
Ed,
goodness, yes.
That would mean in terms of good songs, he's 2 for 2. Or I guess in your case, if you don't like Undecided, he's at least 1 for 2, which is still 50%. And with his great catalog, this album is going to be great. So I'm blaming Drake for this record not being good, Ed.
So let's recap for the listeners. We are guaranteed to get one good song out of 37. And we can blame Drake for all that's wrong with the world. I'm okay with the second, but I don't know if I'm okay with the first.
Yes. Anyways, Ed, Chris Brown's new album, Indigo, will be out at the end of the month, and the people really want to know, because I know you reviewed his last one. Will you be taking your time to review this album as well? Because I know you almost died listening to the last one.
Yes, and you said that this drops June 28th, I believe?
Yep.
Well, I hope by June 30th that you get your plane tickets ready because you will be coming to my funeral. Because that is when they will put me in the ground after getting through this album. Because I don't think my soul can take it. I will do it for our listeners, but it was nice knowing y'all.
Well then. On to some better news here. Raphael Saadiq announced Jimmy Lee, his first album in 8 years. Aren't you excited for a Raphael Saadiq album?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. I know he came out with a new single too, I think, leading up a couple days before we're recording now. I haven't had a chance to catch up on everything since I got back in town. But Raphael never disappoints. One of the better songwriters, and unfortunately, kind of underrated and overlooked in 2019 as far as his accomplishments. So anytime we get new music and a new project from him, it definitely has my ear. And we definitely, with it being about halfway through the year, we could deserve to have another strong R&B contender for Album of the Year. And my boy just might do that.
And that album will come out August 23rd. Now, Ed, I gotta say something. It might be a little controversial, but as far as all these new female R&B acts go, and, you know, I love my girl H.E.R. I love my girl Ella Mai. Summer Walker's cool too, but you know what? Queen Naija, she's been dropping some solid records, and she might be my favorite just based off the sound that she's going with.
I can't fault you there. I remember when she first dropped, I was very skeptical because some of the kids that I mentor were like, "Oh, I'm gonna say, you gotta check her out. She's so good." And every time they ask me to check out some weirdo on YouTube. I expect them to have 97 different colors in their hair and just like mumbling through their verses. But I really liked the sound that I heard from her. And her new track, which you actually shared with me, is pretty fun too.
So it'll be interesting to see if it's that time for that 2000s R&B to make its way back, from a sampling standpoint, because I know, and we'll talk about him later, didn't DJ Khaled sample Miss Jackson by Outkast?
Oh my gosh, talking about terrible albums this year. Yes, he sampled it and it was awful. Shout out to your girl SZA because she just did a horrible job with that song. And no offense to her, I like SZA, but it was just an ill-advised move overall. But yeah, I think that Naija has some... I don't want to, and I want to be careful how I say this because I know y'all going to run up in my mentions. And if you want to do that, you know how to do it. It's E.T. Bowser on Twitter. Holler at me, not Kyle. But she has some vibes that remind me of that mid-2000s Keisha Cole. And when we had that mid-2000s Keisha Cole, we were often reminded of the Queen herself, Mary J. Blige. I feel like that she is kind of the evolution of those two artists. I'm not saying that she's got my life on deck or that she's got anything as good as Keisha Cole because we have only heard kind of snippets of what she can do so far. But there is a lot of the way that she constructs songs. There's a lot of the themes, or where it's pain versus love and yada yada in her music. There's a lot of that is very comparable to those two artists. So I really see a lot of those two artists in her. Not saying she's as good, but it definitely gives me that vibe.
Yeah, and I would say and argue that, and I agree with you, I would also say Ella Mai. And it's funny because now we can look back because we're a little older and we can say, she reminds me of so-and-so. I would say Ella Mai kind of reminds me of like Ashanti when she first came out. It was just that fun R&B. That's what Ella Mai does.
I can see that. I wouldn't necessarily make that comparison, but because I feel like when it comes to actual, I don't want to say star power because Ashanti has stronger star power. But when it just comes to kind of that intangible presence on vocals, and again, I'm not saying that Ella Mai is freaking Whitney Houston, but there is something there that I feel like is very striking when she has a great song. Some of her stuff can be hit and miss, but when she has a great song, there is something that connects through her vocals and her music. And I think that that's something that she has kind of an advantage over Ashanti. But I see where you're going, and I do agree with it because they both make really fun, solid R&B songs for their audience.
Yeah. Now, where would you say what would you say her is in terms of her comparison? Because I know a lot of people are trying to shove that Lauryn Hill title on her, which I think everyone wants to be compared to Lauryn Hill, but where do you see her fitting in?
I don't know if I see her fitting in. And the reason why people are throwing her into Lauryn is because she's got a freaking guitar. And that's all it is. Like, take away the guitar, no. Like, I don't really see Lauryn Hill there. There is a mix of mid-90s / neo soul, kind of like this mashup with a sprinkle of 2010s kind of songwriting ability, that kind of very in-your-face frank songwriting. So I see a lot of elements of everybody, but her is original enough that I can't really compare her, and that's a good thing. You always want to be the first her and not, the next Lauryn Hill. So I think that speaks to her that there's nothing that completely stands out as far as her looking exactly like a former artist, but there's so many elements of kind of our legends that are embedded in her music that it kind of makes her stand out a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I had seen some comparisons to Alicia Keys, and I think I can hear it vocally. But, I mean, Alicia Keys was attached to that piano, and I think even though her can play it, we mostly associate her with the guitar. So maybe not Alicia Keys, but it'll be interesting. I mean, of the three, I think Ella Mai has definitely had the most success from a mainstream standpoint, but her seems to be the one that the old folks, such as myself and you, like. So we'll see.
I think when it comes down to it, her just has something that feels like it could be. When I listen to like an Alicia, and I've talked about this before because we just celebrated the anniversary of her debut album. I was not a big fan of her debut album. As many people gasp and clutch their pearls, I didn't really like her debut. It was okay. I thought it was vastly overrated for what it was, but it was fine. But there was something about her presence, her songwriting ability, her performances. It's like, this is a superstar who will last throughout the next decade. And her second album, I absolutely adore. I thought it was 5 stars. It's one of the best of the past 20 years or so. And she had gone on to be one of the major stars in R&B. There was just something there. There's enough talent there to see this is going to be a big one. That's what I feel about her. So even though she doesn't yet have the big blockbuster songs, and the way that Billboard is now with charts and stuff, it's almost impossible to kind of equate that success to talent. There's always been a problem, but it's even become even more crazy now. But there's something about her that, to me, I feel like when we're having this podcast in 2029, we'll still be talking about her. And there's some artists that we'll be talking about today and tomorrow and on the last podcast that we will never talk about again after 2 years.
Yeah, and you know what? I was talking to Tom about this too, that even though they're not relevant in 10 years or so, it doesn't mean that their career isn't as significant. We were just talking about Sierra on the last podcast, Ed, and I had said that her career as a mainstream artist was over, and people got mad at me, but it's not as bad as it sounds.
Well, people have a very, in the Sierras especially, because of her story. I love Sierra's story. I like Sierra as a person. Y'all know how I feel about that music. Anyway, people are very connected to their artists, and the music they grew up on, and especially fans. And then we're not even going to talk about the stans, but we'll probably get on those later. But fans are very connected to their faves, and when you kind of say, oh, they're fading out of mainstream spotlight, there's such a weird connotation that we have now with so-and-so fell off or so-and-so is irrelevant. And it makes it sound like they're rumbling through the gutter in the trash can. And that's not the case at all. There are a lot of people out here in the spotlight who are barely paying their bills. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes making real bank. Sierra had a great career in the spotlight. And I kind of agree with you. I do not think we're going to see Sierra to the level that we saw in 2005. That's just how the cycle of the game goes. Will she put out another decent song here or there? Probably. Hopefully it's better than that last album, but probably. Other than that, I don't think that it's insulting to say that, we've seen her best days. All careers have an arc. They go up and they go down. And some of the legends will see a revival, like a Mariah in the Emancipation era. We see an uptick. But that's just how it goes, y'all. It doesn't mean that your fave still ain't your fave. Rock with it. But it's just how it goes.
Well said, and I think a case of the emancipation is so rare in the industry. We can't expect that from everyone, and nor should we. So, yeah, I mean, best of luck to all these artists that are coming out, that have already come out. There's a place for you, as long as you continue to make quality music. Speaking of quality music, there's a couple more records that came out. We didn't really get a chance to cover it this week. Maybe next week when Tom is back. Life Jennings dropped a new record. The Hamiltones, they dropped their new EP, Watch the Tones, and new artists on Republic, Kiana Lede, who a lot of fans really like. She dropped her new EP as well. Well, we got to get our guest in the building right now, so guys, grab your popcorn, grab your soda. And guys, we recorded this interview during one of the weeks when Ed was off, so it's just me and Tom on this one if you're wondering where Ed went during this segment, but still a great interview, so check it out. And like I said, every week we try to bring in someone special, someone who has brought soul back. And Tom, you're really excited about this one, aren't you?
Yeah, this is an artist we've been supporting for years now, someone we're excited to bring on the podcast. And when we were talking recently, our favorite R&B artist of the past decade, since like 2010, this is a name that kept coming up. You know, he's constantly putting out good music, mixtapes, his albums, his new one's out now. Welcome, Adrian Marcel, to the podcast. What's up, man?
Oh, wow, man. Thanks for that introduction.
Absolutely, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the love and support, man, throughout the years, for real. So thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
For sure. Now, Adrian, before you got on the podcast, you know, we were trying to schedule you in, and Tom and I were going back and forth. And I was like, do we really want Adrian on the podcast right now? Because he's from the Bay Area. And Adrian, I'm from Canada, and the NBA Finals is going on right now. And I thought we needed to wait until the Finals was over, but hey, man, you got a new album out.
Man, well, you know, number one, go Warriors. No, the album 98 is out right now on all digital platforms. It's my newest offering, you know, to what I like to say is you know, just a rebirth in a way. You know what I'm saying? I hate that's, you know, to be that corny, but, you know, just a reintroduction to, you know, who I am now. You know, I've been very blessed to be able to, you know, live a life that I just have dope experiences. I get to, you know, grow with my family, with my loved ones, with, you know, with traveling the world and seeing different things. You know, you just kind of grow and you start to, you know, you start to find yourself more and more and settle in who you are, you know, and sometimes that's taking it back, and that's going back to, you know, your best moments and your most confident moments, you know. So the title 98 is that time that I settled in, and that I feel like I've gotten back to, you know, after so long. You know, when I moved to 98th and MacArthur in East Oakland, you know, I was in high school. I was going to an art school. I was the new kid, but I knew I had it, and I knew I was the shit. You know, so it was like, all right, I'm finally somewhere where, you know, I can be challenged and I could, you know, learn more about this craft that I love so much, you know. And those were the years that I was just at my most confident peak, you know. And not to say that I haven't been that confident, you know, I have, and I've always known, you know, the type of music that I want to do and that I want to give to the world. But, you know, I had to really accept that back then I was free, you know, and I was, it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the fame or the popularity. It was about the love of music and growing in my craft. You know what I mean? Like, the dream back then was not Grammys. The dream back then was to be the best at what I do. Like, make music that I love, that the people around me, the type of people who are like me, love. You know what I mean? To give a message where, you know, it really meant something, you know. So I realized, it's like, well, damn, I am free. You know, I am there, and I should be that confident. So let me go back to that. Let me get back into that space, into that era. And back then, I was listening to certain music. I started listening to that music again. albums that I hadn't listened to in years. And it was like, yo, this is back when we used to mob in the Windstar van, and we used to be down 9-8 running whoop whoop whoop, and man, and that feeling, that confident, this young confident kid that everybody was like, yo, that's the light skinned singing dude right there. He don't hey, when he walk in, you better grab your girl, because she already knows if they find out he can sing, that's all, you know what I'm saying? That's all she wrote. So I got back to that, and I just got in my bag, man. I went back in the studio, and I locked in with people who I felt wanted to see me grow in every way, in my production, in my writing, in my mixing, in my mastering, because me and my people did it all. So it was going back to that, literally that kid that was like, I ain't got no money to go do this. Yeah, I got some money, but I don't have to spend it. It shouldn't have to be that way. I'm not going to go over here and pay $1,500 to this guy who's the best mixer and master because he has 2 Grammys and da-da-da-da. Like, yo, but every time I play this record, everybody goes stupid. Like, they're like, I don't hear the problem with it. Okay, so it's about how it feels, how it felt back then. So my whole aura just kind of changed, and who I was kind of changed, man. It was like growing in life and being able to grow as an artist, and I think that's a rare moment. So I was going through so many names in what I wanted to call this project, and as I told myself, just stop tripping on stuff like that. Just make the music, make good music, and the music will lead you. And that's exactly what happened. Like, it was like, yo, this got to be called 98. This is 98. Like, the only people in this room is from damn near 98, like, or East Oakland of some sort. Like, I ain't called Justice League or this people or No ID or what I'm saying. Like, I didn't reach out at all. I stayed right in my box and said that stop taking the weight off of yourself. Lift the weight. Like, stop throwing it off. Lift it. So do it all. If this is gonna be your reintroduction, me starting my own label, Third Voice Music Group, and saying to myself, like, no, this is a real thing. This ain't no, like, that's the only thing different about it. In high school, it was just talk. Like, now it's real. You know what I'm saying? So as a businessman and as an artist and as a human being, I had to figure out what's that balance and what you give to all of that. And all of it just kind of came together, man. And that the fact that everyone is rocking with it, everyone is really loving it. Like, the way they're speaking about it is really just a blessing, man, because I'm happy to say I didn't stand behind anything, nobody else but myself and my company and my people to make it happen and to put it out. And the fact that you listening to it and you saying, man, he always puts out good music. Okay, so that was the start, and that was always the point. So this introduction of music could be the first bundle of music that you get to say, oh, okay, it ain't the label, it ain't the this, right. It ain't the that. It's him. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, now let's get to this next batch of music. Now let's get to this, because I've been working, because I've been back in the studio, and these are the songs that I wanted to get first. These were my introductions, and it's all on me. It's what I want to do. And that's the freedom of it, and that's why it's 98. Because back then, that's it. That's all it was, whatever I want to do. Now I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. And it got me a deal. It got me a hit record. It got me, this knowledge and this fan base and this support system and all of that. That got me there. So me now today, kicking that back into gear. Where's it going to take me in another 10 years, another 5 years, you know what I mean?
Right. That's dope.
Yeah. Tom, I gotta pass it on to you because, during our introduction, even before the introduction, we had talked about Adrian being one of our favorite R&B artists to come out of that 2010 era, and there's a plethora of artists that came from that era. But Tom, I know, and Adrian touched on good music. That's like the best mantra you can have as an artist. But Tom, I know one of the other reasons why you love Adrian's music is just his ability to combine that trendy sound with some of those classical sounds, right, Tom? Is that why you like Adrian's music?
Adrian, really, a lot of these artists who've come out in the past decade have come and gone. The music wasn't memorable. it just wasn't really. And I grew up in the '90s, so it wasn't like something I really stuck with me. So your music for me, you combine traditional sounds with the trendy sounds. Like you do that, and it works. It doesn't work for everyone. Yeah. And not only that, but what you're singing about is relatable. Like a lot of the songs I hear, trap and B, I can't relate to it. And I grew up on music I can relate to. So that's why I feel your music. It hits me. Certain songs, like I could just vibe with a song like a Slow Burn, like that song, just sticks with you. You live with it and it sticks with you and you feel it. So that's, to me, the experience I get when I hear your music.
And honestly, man, it's a catch-22, because the world and how it is right now, man, it's like social media runs it all. You know what I mean? Popularity runs it all. Mm-hmm. So, you have so many artists that have these outlets to just throw out whatever. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to try hard. Not all of it is garbage. Not all of it is the same, but it's just so much of it that the ratio gets thrown off. It's like you have to weed through it to find the good stuff that you can't relate to, because half of them can't even relate to what they're talking about. So they're not even really giving you a real delivery anyway. And you're falling in love with beats these days. You're not really falling in love with the songs, or you're falling in love with a melody. You don't really care about the lyrics. You know what I mean? It's like, so I think with my music, I've always just let that drive me. Like, okay, cool. You can have 1 million people on this one song and it can just go away quick. Or you can let it grow. These 100,000 can turn into 500,000, can turn into 800,000, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, because the word of mouth and the respect and the reputation that you have over your music and you really caring and talking about what people want to hear. Like, I'm going to still give you the trap snares every now and then. I'm going to still give you the thump because I'm from the town. Like, I'm from Oakland. That's what we like. Like, I'm not just all on the old school, soul mission. Like, that's what I do naturally. That's the singing ability and all that. But when it comes to how you want to hear it, though, like, I still want to slap, so I always bring that to it. But I don't listen to the trendy songs. You know what I'm saying? I tried that. I tried to make the songs that were like, oh, okay, the mobbins and stuff like that. It's dope, but you're in a pool, a cesspool. Like, you're just in a pool of just all kind of that, all levels of that. And how do they know that's real or not? Okay, so let me make some shit that you do know is real. I'm going to put some thump on this, and then I'm going to talk about how, these days, I don't know if we're going to make it because you ain't loving me the way I want to be loved. And who don't feel like that? Who ain't ever felt like that? One person, we all know pain. Everybody don't know love, but we all know pain. We all know when somebody don't love us, when somebody don't care. So how do I bring that and make you listen to it? Okay, well, let me get a good melody. Let me make sure the beat is slapping. And I'm going to make sure these lyrics is coming across correctly to you, and clear. So, it's definitely like, it's not as hard as it seems when you're not trying to, when you're really not trying to be trendy, man, when you're really trying to just create your own sound and create your own vibe. You can't listen to what the popular is, because if it's popular, you're late already. It's already out. People already got it. So now you got to think ahead. You got to think, okay, how music is and how it changes. You got to understand sonics and the waves and what they are, because it's like you can't move too quick. How many albums have we heard from Kanye where we didn't been like, what is this? And then 3 years later, we're like, shit, man, this the shit. Right, too early. Too early. So you can't be too early on them. You got to be right there. You just got to, it's like watching water, man. Like when you watch the waves, look what the water is doing naturally before you go mess with it and go fuck with it and go try to emulate it. It's you gotta watch it. You gotta pay attention to what people feel and what they like, not just what they listening to for a hot minute. It's deeper than that. It has to be deeper than that, in my opinion. So I don't know how I stick to it as much as I do, man. I appreciate your words and you saying that, because You know, sometimes I don't even realize that that's what I'm doing. I'm just honestly going off of what I feel and what I want to hear. You know, like what I used to like songs to say for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I was a kid listening to heartbreak music. Come on now, like what heartbreak music you going through as a kid, but you feel it. It's like, yeah, man, she broke up with me. Like, you know, so again, that 98 spirit, that's what I call it. Like, that was my high school years, man. I wasn't going through no real heartbreak, but I was. Like,
right.
Damn, man, she's going out with the homie now. Okay. Like, it's cool. You feel me? So that's really what it is, man. I think as long as you're able to relate to people in the times that they're in, then, you know, you can. But I think people know the difference, bro. People know when it's not real, and it's a lot of phony. It's a lot of phony out here, but people know. That's why it doesn't last.
Exactly, 100%.
Right. Now, Adrian, being that you've signed to a major, you know, previously, one thing we like to do on the podcast, we like to just try to figure out what's going on inside not only an independent artist's mind, but also a major label's artist's mind. And, you know, from watching one of your interviews, I think it was with the Breakfast Club, you had mentioned that the Chris Brown record, Back to Sleep, that was originally your record?
Yeah, it was.
Like, and then it got to Chris Brown. Like, how did that all happen?
Yeah, well, it happens a lot, man, in the industry, because, you know, you have a lot of people who are all number one on one end trying, you know, looking for their placements, you know. So producers are sending everybody the beat that they just sent you and said that this is for you, you know. So it don't take too long, because the other person who you didn't know had the beat too might already pay for it, or might already did something, or, you know. So on one end you have that. On the other end you have the labels that move slow, because they move off of what's popular and not what you feel. Like, again, we talked about the waves. Like, labels aren't looking for most labels and most A&Rs aren't looking at the waves. So they're looking at what's already being done, what's already hot, you know? So, again, they're late. So they don't want to pay for this because they don't believe in this. This is not the sound. This is not something that they can relate to, you know what I'm saying, right now, because it's not popular. So they don't pay for it. And next thing you know, Chris Brown got it, you know? It's, you know, so, but it taught me a valuable lesson. I'm not that artist, man, that sits back and sulks, man, and goes crazy like, oh, man, I'm not where I was, or I'm not doing what. Hey, this is all for a reason. You know, this is all for me to learn something. Like, I'm happy I was blessed to have this time to learn, and I needed to be on my shit, that I needed to have my own label. I needed to have my own businesses and my business affairs and everything in order. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all for a reason. And the lessons that I was allowed to learn was that, hey, you got to produce it then. You got to make sure you're all over this record, that no matter what happens, whether it's a slow thing or it's moving fast, can't nobody else get this record without me saying it's okay. You know, it's right. You know, you have to learn and push yourself to be even better. Okay, this is that time that I'm supposed to be even more on my shit. I need to be producing it, writing it, mixing it, mastering it, behind putting it out, behind how we gonna promote it, how we gonna do this, how we gonna do that. I mean, every detail. You know, not a tyrant, but a part of everything. You know what I mean? So I had to learn and grow, man, and that's really what made me start producing. And now I've produced 80% of this entire record. Right. You know?
And then Adrian, along with that, then, you know, and these are all the lessons you've learned, and now you can look back at it now. But, like, a record, and Tom and I talk about this a lot, is the record that Rico Love did for you, Spending the Night Alone. We liked that song, but it never felt like an Adrian Marcel record. So at the time, I mean, looking back at it now, you can have your thoughts on it, but give me the thought process as it's happening when the label comes to you and says, we want you to record this song. Like, as an artist on the label, what was the thought process from your perspective?
I recorded the record anyway, even though it was like, yo, I hope that this is not the second record. This is more like, you know, the album record that solidifies things, you know. And they were so adamant about it. And sometimes, you know, I guess the way we played it was more, we don't want to be the ones that are problematic, you know, because that's what it could be called, you know, whatever. So, hey, let's run, let's try it, you know, because I believe firmly that, hey, if I do it your way completely and it don't work, then I'm allowed to do it my way completely too, and see if it works. You know what I mean? And that to me was the even exchange. I'm cool with trying it and it don't work. Cool, it's all good, man. But let me do it my way now. And that didn't come afterwards. So for me, it wasn't the record. I had no problem with that record. I loved the song. I loved, you know, working with Rico Love, and it was a super dope experience that I learned a lot from in a matter of hours from doing. After that, I didn't get to do it my way. You know, It was like, okay, well, now we going to take your time. What the fuck are we doing? You know, like, what the fuck are we doing? A country record now? Like, that's already out? Okay. All right. Okay, let's get the fuck up out of here. Like, this ain't it, you know? But at the same time, like, I was blessed, right? Because I played it the way I did, you know, I was blessed to be able to walk away without owning shit, without having my head on a shelf, with a bounty on it. You know what I'm saying? Like how they do these artists and shit. I've talked to so many artists that's winning right now that tell me how horrible they're doing right now. You know, and I'm sitting back like, wow, this shit's crazy that I'm looking at it like, damn, okay, I gotta do this. Dolo, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. You know what I mean? But hey, that's that one thing that I ain't gonna ever worry about again is my time and decisions being completely made for me. Again, coming back to that 98 spirit, like you couldn't have did that to that kid back then. Like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? We ain't doing that. Teachers had a horrible time with me. Like, I'm not performing that one. I'm finna come out there nice and slow. Watch. Just watch. Let me come out from the audience. Give me the microphone and let me sit with the crowd. They ain't even gonna know. The parents ain't even know what's happening to them. And what happened? You kill it. Like, let me do my thing. You know, so a lot of lessons again just had to get learned, man, you know?
Right.
And it's never about the records, because I feel like any record today especially can be a hit. Any record today. Because you got the money to push it, it's gonna win. That's what it is. Who you paying?
Right.
Who you paying to play it? Who you paying to spin it? Who you paying to make sure it's on this cover and that cover? And who you paying to do? It's a money game.
Yep.
So for me, this was my message, my first introduction. Again, my message to just say, look, I got some good ass music. What y'all talking about? This is and this was done effortlessly though. This is effortless. Right. This is not, oh man, we got to push it back because it's not, you know, I was watching, what's that dude? Gary, what's his name? He's like a motivational speaker, financial speaker and shit.
Oh, I'm not sure.
You know, the guy who always, the guy, Gary, look, I'm mad when I figured out after this podcast. But the dude, I mean, he be talking that shit, and I swear I was working on this album, and one of his specials came on, and he said it. He said, people talk about, oh, it's not done yet, it's not right yet, it's you know, I'm just waiting for it to get mixed all the way right. He was like, you scared, period. You scared. You don't believe in it. I don't want to hear that, oh, well, it ain't mixed, or that's why, or no, this didn't come back right. We got to put why can't it come out right now? You scared. And I had to realize that, like, yo, I'm thinking too deep. Yeah, I'm not going over here to find this and that and this. That means I don't believe in me. That means I don't believe in the people that's standing right beside me right now. You know what I mean? That's a slap in the face to them. That's a slap in the face to myself. So it was like, all those experiences coming back to help me today, like, nah, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to stay on this track. I'm going to stay on this focus. You know what I mean? Like, no more will I let myself be completely directed. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm coachable. I'm not naive. I think that's why, for me, making the switch and saying I'm gonna also be a businessman behind this is because I'm able to understand the artist side, but I'm able to understand that business side. Like, okay, yeah, the artist in me wants to do X, Y, and Z, but the businessman in me is saying, hell no, we're not doing that. We got to do this. You know, so I'm not naive. When I see good direction, when I hear good direction, I'm with it. But no more am I doing the, hey, let's try it. No, fuck that. We not doing that. We're not doing that. New plan. New plan. Call somebody else in here. I'm not happy with that. You know what I'm saying? That's what it comes down to now, like being in total control. And that's so much more important. As artists these days, we worry about the money because that's what people rapping about. That's what people singing about. Money. Money, 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 money. Money, hoes, cars, how much jewelry. Like, you said it yourself. I can't relate to everything that's being talked about. I ain't no fucking drug dealer. I don't know what it's like to go to town and then go get 2 bags, go to Gucci and go buy two bags because I just sold 3 bags. Like, come on, bro. I don't know. I don't know that life. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm not going to be around people who are saying, how can we get him to sing like Chris? Or how can we get him to talk about what Trey Songz is talking about? Or how can we? I don't need nobody doing that. I need somebody that's behind me like, yo, that dude really know who he is. And I believe in that. And that's what I want to help. That's what I want to push. I want to push that. I want to push that because I see it. I feel it. I can relate to that. And luckily, bro, I've been blessed to have fans and supporters that understand that and feel that off the music. So I don't hold none of my past. Like, I'm not bitter about none of that shit. And that's why I'm off. Like, for me, GMFU was a little darker. It was like a little more bitter sounding. Like, it was, you know, you know, you want to hear this? All right, I'm going to do this. And then, like, now I'm like, no, I'm not going to be in control at all. You don't have my emotions at all. I'm really having a good fucking time loving music and loving the fact that I'm able to make good music. Like, that's a blessing. Not everybody is able to make good music, even when they try.
Right.
So that's what I took. That's what I went with.
Exactly. And, you know, like we said, man, we're loving what you're doing. We've been an early supporter. Glad to still be here supporting. And,
thank you.
You know, glad to see you keeping it going now as an independent artist. You still got that movement going, and, you know, it's exciting to watch play out. Well, we're just about out of time, Adrian. Just want to touch on one last thing. Another exciting piece of news you got coming up is the movie you're going to be a part of. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the DeBarge movie. Yeah, so it's ran with TV One, man. It's called the Bobby DeBarge story. It's about Bobby DeBarge, man. His ups and downs in the limelight, you know what I'm saying? Like, around a time where it was just surrounded by, you know, family trauma and all kind of different, you know, romantic relationships and whatnot, and at the same time, drugs and rock and roll type shit, you know? But at the same time, it was about the DeBarges as well. So I played James DeBarge, you know, one that joined later on and one that was the one that married Janet. So, you know, I was juiced, man, because it was the first time that I played a role where I didn't have to sing. So I'm like the only role that's not singing in this. Like, everybody else's role gets to sing except me. And people were kind of upset about it. Like, my people were like, yo, why the fuck, why haven't you play L or da-da-da? Like, nah, you don't understand. Like, James and Bobby had a certain history that was one of the most traumatic of it all through him and their father. And for me to do that role was for me to really show, like, hey, I got some chops. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm excited. It was my first time really being in a feature film, bro, and experiencing it and really marking that off my list of things that I wanted to get into. So, it's kind of like the beginning with this. But it drops June 29th, Saturday, June 29th this month, man, on TV1. And I think you guys are gonna really enjoy it, man. It's pretty deep. Their family went through a lot of I'm gonna just say shit.
Yeah. Wow.
But you gotta see it though, man. It's really dope how they shot it. You know what I mean? Like everybody in it was really good, man. And like I said, I got to show off a couple of my chops and things, so I'm juiced about it, man. I got to put on the lace front, you know what I mean, on some San Francisco pimp, on some San Francisco pimp shit, Filmo in there looking suave and shit. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm in this. I like this. So it was dope. It was a dope experience for real.
That's awesome, man. We're looking forward to checking that out. And we're out of time, man. We want to thank you so much for joining us, taking the time out of your day and talking about the music with us, man. Absolutely. We keep looking forward to see what you're going to come with. Loving what you're doing, so keep it going, man.
And that was Adrian Marcel on the podcast. Ed, are you now ready for the Playa Please Awards?
Listen, Playa, I've been living for this one.
So we got a couple as usual. Ed, can we first start off? Let's go a little easy. But you were in Atlanta not too long ago, and your boy Quavo from the Migos has announced he wants to do an R&B album.
First of all, my boy Quavo is enough for a backhand on my end. Why? I'm gonna bring it down and I'm gonna bring it back up. We talked a little bit earlier about how R&B sounds in 2019 and my issue with it. How R&B has become mumbling over a verse or screaming into autotune, and this is R&B. And although a lot of people will be in my mentions at ET Bowser on Twitter, you know how we do, yelling at me about how I'm old and I don't understand what R&B is. Let me just tell you what R&B is not. R&B is not a rap dude hollering over a murky beat. R&B is not somebody sour singing over a hip-hop track. R&B is actual instrumentation, vocalization, crafted songs by people who use their voices as an instrument. I have never heard Quavo in my life sing a lick, but if I expect him to be harmonizing, vocalizing, or using his instruments, I will need to lessen my expectations because I don't think it's going to happen. Quavo's get over there, continue to make your trash hip-hop that I can ignore and stay out of my R&B.
Isn't the bare minimum to at least be able to sing?
Not anymore. Ask your boy Drake. And Cousin Chris, as much as I beat him up, he has a good voice, but he didn't even do that half the time. And it's because I don't want to go down this rabbit hole of a rant. But the way that our industry, mainstream, I'm not talking about overall, because there are plenty of artists doing the thing. Mainstream has corrupted the minds of mainstream listeners to think that R&B is not something that is sung by professional singers. It is a style of beat that anybody can do by just talking slow or yelling over with autotune. That's not what R&B is. That's yelling over autotune. That's talking slow.
Let's give a quick shout out to T-Pain for ruining R&B.
Oh, I will kick him in his kneecaps. And don't tell me that he can sing for real and send me that same link y'all been sending me for 10 years. I know he can sing. He ain't made none of those songs. Those were hits. Y'all made the other songs hits. I'm in my feelings now, Playa. I'm heated.
Well, you're not the only one heated, Ed. DJ Khaled, his album dropped, like I mentioned, recently, and he landed at number 2 on the Billboard Top 200 charts. Tyler, the Creator, is number 1. And DJ Khaled allegedly threw a temper tantrum at his label's office. Man, he's passionate, isn't he, Ed?
He's ridiculous is what he is. First of all, let me clear up the story a little bit because I will give Khaled credit. Apparently, Khaled said that he was not upset that Tyler's album was ahead of his. Yeah, right. He said that he was upset because the way that the sales were calculated, it has, I mean, you guys can Google it. I don't want to misquote him, but it was something to the equivalent of he was selling albums with some kind of prepackaged deals. Like, and it's, I mean, all of us who have observed the industry know this. Sometimes you get albums with hats and whatever. So it was some prepackaged thing that was not calculated in time. And he said that if it was, he would have had number one album. And because it wasn't, he was number two, and he was pissy about it. Let me tell you how to get a number one album, player. Not to package it with some t-shirts or some stank hats, but to make an album that's actually good. Your album was horrible. There was one good song on it from my boy Nipsey Hussle. So, of course, because, you know, everybody's on the Nipsey train now, because we love you once you're gone, but ignore you when you're here. Everybody he was pushing that song to the forefront. It's actually a good song, so do check that out. So he rode the wave of that song, and then when you got the album, you had to hear terrible songs like that SZA Outkast track. I wasn't in love. I reviewed Tyler's album. You can check it out on soulandstereo.com. I didn't love it as much as most, but it was a vastly superior album. So don't be in your feelings that you got beat by a more talented artist. That's how it goes, dog. Want more sales? Make a better album.
Seems like a simple equation there. And then the last Playa Please, Ed. I don't know how long you want to go in on this, and I'm kind of scared, but we're going to give a Playa Please to the Beyhive, to Beyonce, to Stephane Mills, to Lettuce, everyone that was defending this. Because, but Ed, before you go in, can't Beyonce just speak up and stop her fans from being crazy?
Well, see, that's what I want to go in about. I'm sure most of you have already heard the story. So J and B were at one of the NBA Finals games. I forget the woman's name. I apologize for that. Someone attending the game, sitting beside Beyonce, leans over Beyonce to ask Jay-Z, hey, what you want to drink? Jay-Z says, oh, I want a vodka soda, something like that. Okay. The cameras just a split second catch Beyonce's eyebrow raised or something. So these Beyhive morons are like, how dare this lady disrespect the queen? And they harass her to the point that she has to close her social media. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And what is even more ridiculous, player, is the excuses that I've heard. And the excuses all revolve around the same thing. Well, that woman was in Beyonce's personal space. Let me tell you something about your personal space, dog. You must have never attended a professional game ever. You must never gone to a church before. Because if you have been in a gathering of multiple people and you're sitting beside somebody, that's gonna happen. How else could she talk to Jay-Z if there's 1,000 million people screaming and whistles going off and buzzers and whatever? She had to lean over. That's called what human beings do. And do we even know what Beyonce, was she really mad? Or was she about to sneeze? Or did her eye itch? Beyonce never said that she was upset about this. Why are y'all so maniacally obsessed with what some other couple's life is like? Chill out. But again, I'm going to back up on that. Really, my whole beef at this point is just with Beyonce herself. Yes, Beyonce herself, I said it. Here's why. Beyonce's publicist came out with some ridiculous statement that was the equivalent of, oh, Beyhive, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. You're so beautiful. You smell like jelly beans. Oh, you're so wonderful. By the way, don't be mean to people. We love you, love you, love you. Kisses and smooches now. A whole bunch of bee stings. I write statements for public officials for a living. And I can tell you when a statement is stupid. That statement was trash because that statement did not, which was intended to tell the Beyhive to calm down, that didn't do anything. And that was from their publicist. That would be like me sending out a statement for a public official. Y'all know me, but the public doesn't know me. What should have happened is Beyonce should have cut one of them grainy little raggedy IG videos that y'all love to do. 10 seconds. Hey, Beyhive, listen, this got out of hand. Let's pull back a little bit. It's all good. I still love y'all. If she did that for 6 seconds, that would have shown more. But the reason why I don't think she did it is because she doesn't want to screw up the Beyhive, because she doesn't want to make them mad and affect her sales. Very disappointed in your feminist icon, Beyonce, on this one.
Yeah, because I'm sure Beyonce knows that there's this thing going on social media where her beehives are just bullying everyone, and she's never stood in and said stop, which kind of makes me believe that she's enabling and allowing, and maybe even to an extent want the bullying to go on, and we can't stand for that in 2019. There's so much hate going on. The last thing we want or need is Beyonce and her beehives to be taking over the internet.
Let me tell you something that's going to make everybody mad and it's going to blow this podcast up. So for the last, third and final time, ET Bowser on Twitter is where you can go send me death threats. I will gladly ignore them. Beyonce's whole thing is support, respect, and the upliftment of women. But we're going to let this lady get destroyed for absolutely no reason by, unfortunately, mostly other women. If you are the beacon you're the voice for feminists in pop culture, and you are letting this ride and sending your minions out to talk in your behalf, and you ain't said nothing, that makes me see that you ain't about it for real, lady. Because that is not something that someone who stands for equal and fair and love treatment of women, that should not be the stance that you take. And you're taking that stance because you don't want your money to get messed up. Like, just keep it real. That's what this is. And if it's money over women, you sounding like, well, actually her husband did have a song that was kind of like money over women. So I guess she's keeping it in the family. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, y'all, I'm here and I'm looking at this thing through a lens that in a world that I actually inhabit. This ain't me just sitting around throwing around stuff and it's something I'm not known about. This is what I do for a living. I know when something's right. I know when something's wrong. And I know that all that bluster and all that homecoming and all that support of women looking mighty funny in the light right now. Get it together.
And you're absolutely right on that. And then lastly, Ed, I just want to point out or ask, I thought being a stan ended when you were like 18 years old, but I was looking at some of those comments. Some of those women are grown-ass women, and they're trolling on the internet. I thought that ended after high school.
I saw Stephane Mills up there. I was like, what is going on in the world? It is ridiculous. We have become to define ourselves by throwing people under the bus in support of people that we have never met in our life. And I'm not saying Stephanie's never met Beyonce. Maybe she has. But Stephanie is somebody of her distinction. I need her to use some common sense because you are enabling. And I think it was Lettucey that kind of came out. And shout out to Lettucey. I know she listens to the podcast. We love Lettucey. But I can't let you ride on this one either, Mom. Because I think she came out and was saying, oh, everybody shouldn't be mad at Stephanie. Don't diss Stephanie. Okay, that's cool. However, use your platform to take that message further and say, instead of attacking Stephanie like we attack this woman, how about we support all women? How about we not attack these people? Why am I not a woman and I'm speaking stronger of supporting women than actual women? What are we doing? These stands are ridiculous, man. You don't see any Keith Sweat stands acting up.
I was going to say, Ed, I got to remind you, you're a Keith Sweat stan, not a Beyhive member. So maybe listen, that's why.
We got it together.
You guys sure do. Ed, that seems to be it for this week's podcast. What's going on with SoulInStereo.com? I seen you make a post about like songs made by white artists that would be played at a cookout, and I saw a Britney Spears song on there. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. So this is a product of the Soul and Stereo Cypher on Facebook. If you're not a member of the Cypher, go check that out. Facebook. It's a Facebook group. Nothing but music heads in there. It's so much fun, and it's a safe space, so don't worry about any trolling because we don't accommodate any of that there. However, there was a conversation about songs from white artists that we love. And I'm not talking about Blue Eyed Souls. I'm not talking about Tina Marie and Robin Thicke and Justin Timberlake. No, we're talking about white pop songs. Everybody was talking about their favorites, so I compiled them all into a 50-song playlist. Some folks were mad because their favorite didn't get in. That's okay. Make your own playlist. But for this one, 50 songs from the Soul and Stereo Cypher from white pop artists that, still get love at the cookout. Go check that out. That playlist is doing very, very well. And some other stuff. Man, it's been so long. Album reviews from Tyler, the Creator, and our boy Rasan Patterson. Both of those are up. I look back at the career of one of my favorites, my girl, Kelly Price. We ranked her entire discography. That's up. By the time this podcast post, one of our contributors, my man Alex Goodman, he's going back and revisiting some of T.I.'s best songs. That'll be up. Man, Soul and Stereo Cypher popping.
Yes, sir. And on You Know I Got Soul, we're just going to continue booking these guests for the podcast. Let's get that going. But Ed, I think that's it for this week. Pleasure as always. Let's get Tom back next week and have all three of us. But I guess, Ed, until then, I'll talk to you next week.
Yes, hopefully next week the Beyhive will be somewhere squashed and things will be back to normal. But probably not.
We can only hope. 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 We can only hope.